Well, hello everyone and welcome in. Welcome into our Sunday program. We have a number of Sunday programs here on the Six Screens. Now, on Sunday, we take on a different way of doing business. We get into theology, we get into biblical discussion. We love to do that. I'm a Christian man, and we do have Christians that, believe it or not, many people leaving the Watchtower do become Christians. Now, not as many that go in the opposite direction. About 20%, from what I can gather, of people who leave the Watchtower actually want to turn to spirituality. So it's a small percentage, but there are people that like to discuss the scripture, and they're on here with us today. And hopefully, we can get some people coming in that can speak up and tell us about their trek in the Watchtower. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. How are you this Six Screen Sunday?
Well, it's a nice sunny day up here. Nice, about 60 degrees, sunny. It's beautiful. It really, really is. It's been a good week for the ex-witnesses. Been a really good week. We talked about that protest down in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House. Very successful protest. I have to say, I've been protesting for 18 years, Anne Marie, but that one was just, I'm still high on that. I am so happy to see so many people show up. I was just unbelievably bouncing all over the place, thinking how wonderful that is. More and more people are leaving the Watchtower.
Oh, isn't that the truth? And I'm so happy for you, Rick, because you have been so faithfully, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I can't think of anything else. You have been so faithfully carrying the cross, if you will, of the Lord's call upon your life. And, and I'm just seeing that you're seeing the blessings and the support because people are listening and they're looking to the Six Screens and they're listening to Mike and Kim too on YouTube. I think the two of you together with Atlantis behind everybody, sharing so much. And all the others are realizing, like you said, it's a clearinghouse. We get to know what's really going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower because of you and your faithfulness. I'm so happy the protest, did so well.
Yeah, well, what was really neat about it is people didn't seem to be afraid to step out into the limelight. Now, this has not always been the case, Anne Marie. Many times I protested in years past, invited people, and they kind of chickened out at the last minute. So I thought that was going to happen at the protest in Washington on Tuesday, because when I showed up there, I got there early. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting all my gear and equipment and everything ready so that I'd be ready to go when the protest started. And so I got there about 8:30, and hardly anybody was there. Then 9:30 or so, more and more people started coming in. There was probably 20, 25, and it started at 10 in the morning, and there were about 53, and that's exactly the amount of people that protested up in Warwick back in 2017. So I figured, well, at least we got the tie there, and then more and more people started coming in. Around 1 o'clock, we had about 150, and then around 2 o'clock, there was over 200 people there, Anne-Marie.
Oh, wow. Just picturing that in my mind makes my heart smile. The truth is coming out. Remember, is it Luke 8:17 or something like that? Where even in the Watchtower's own Bible, it says, "For there is nothing hidden that will not become manifest, nor anything carefully concealed that will never become known and not come out in the open." And that's exactly what you're doing. You're fulfilling Ephesians 5:10 through 14. Expose them for what they are. And how could the Lord not continue to bless you and everyone else who tells the truth about this wicked, evil cult that does such evil in the name of God?
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it. I can't add any more to that. It is an evil organization. But I'm just going to put a call out there for anyone listening in to our radio program here today, as well as on YouTube. I'm going to put something up right now. I'm going to put our telephone number up. If there's anybody listening in on YouTube or listening in on our telephone that would like to come in and tell their story today here on our program, you can come in, tell your story, tell how you were affected by the Watchtower organization. I'm going to put a number up, and if anyone listening in on a telephone line would like to come in and tell their story, we'd love to have you. The phone number's up there on YouTube right now. But if anyone's on the telephone line and they would like to tell their story, their trek in the Watchtower organization, by all means, do it. Would love to listen to you. But anyways, I'll go back to the protest, because that seems to be something that really got my attention this week. So Washington's about 400, almost 500 miles away from where I live here in Boston. So I got down there. I saw my father, first of all, in Pennsylvania. Then I got down there, would have been last Monday night, and then got up early Tuesday morning and make sure we had all the equipment and stuff ready. But you should have seen the police presence, the Secret Service. They had they had Secret Service men on the roof with rifles on the roof of the White House, and of course, I'm sure they were concerned about perhaps Palestinian and Israeli protesters. There wasn't, the day I was there wasn't that, but a couple of days later, I guess they started coming in. But anyways, we had a good time. We had a loudspeaker system set up, and there was a number of speakers. They wanted me to be one of the speakers, so I spoke down there, and they allowed certain ones to come in and speak, and that was good even afterwards. But Selena Vertolomo, you know who she is, Anne-Marie, right?
Right.
Well, she was there. She really was there. I was really surprised that she showed up, because a lot of people really, when she came on our program about a month ago, they kind of really questioned a lot of her activity and some of the things she was saying. But she was there and she gave a talk, and I had a chance to talk with her afterwards. And I says, Selena, we're friends. I said, we're not enemies. She said, oh, no, don't worry, Rick. I know on the program, you had to ask some questions, and some of your audience wanted to have me answer questions. She says, but I like you. I said, well, that's nice, Selena. I like you too. She says, but my mother doesn't like you. So
well, there's no accounting for taste.
Yeah. So, but I don't care if Selena's mother doesn't like me. There's a lot of people that don't. And even down there, there's what it was, Anne-Marie, is, 6 screens. It has a bigger presence than I thought. I know we do the program. We've been doing it for 18 years. And, we never really got to be amongst 200 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's hard to really get feedback like on your radio program. But I have to tell you, Anne-Marie, they were treating me like I was like the Beatles. And I really mean that. Geez, people were coming up. They wanted to take selfies. Rick, I listen in every Saturday night. I love the people that call into the program. I love the people who host the program. They know everything about what's going on in the ex-witness world. So I thought that was fantastic that they came and spoke up and got to meet each other. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. Yes.
Well, I am so, so very happy, Rick, because one thing I notice about you is that you're so kind and easygoing, and you tell the truth, and you listen to everyone, and you let everyone speak and share and ask questions. You let them interrupt you all over the place, and you comment and validate. You do so much research. You work so hard. I have never seen anybody work so hard to track down news and to verify the things you read or hear, the emails, the phone calls. A lot of people have no clue just how hard you work behind the scenes to bring what you bring to the forum that you put out for us, the 6 screens of the Watchtower, because it's just, it's a place that we feel secure that we can go to. And a lot of people have admitted later that they had been listening for years, for a long time. Remember that guy that called in about 2 or 3 years ago? He was kind of whispering, and you kept trying to figure out, well, who are you? Well, what's your name? Well, where are you from? And it sounded like he was in a closet or hiding somewhere. And he said he couldn't talk, but he just wanted to call in and let you know that he had been listening. A lot of people listen to you. And the last thing he said was, keep doing what you're doing because it's getting out. People are listening. And he, as far as I know, he never called back. And it sounded like he was a PMO, JW, probably an elder who had been secretly listening to you for years. And I have heard others say that they had been listening to you. One guy called into the show, I remember, and said that he had a bunch of people at his house, and he had like speakers all through his house connected to the phone line. And that as a group, they were all listening to your show. And just keep on doing what you're doing. And one lady told me that she had gotten out of the Watchtower specifically from listening to the 6 screens that you would save their life. And I heard of others that said they heard of others like that. So I do believe that this is great. I'm so glad that you're being recognized, because you need kudos too, Rick. You're always so uplifting, and you're always, encouraging to others. And I'm so glad you had that experience.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. Now, after, in fact, when the protest was over, I made an announcement. I said, if anyone wants to come back to my hotel room, I got a suite. So I had like 2 rooms in my hotel, so I could set up one as a studio, because I know I was going to have some people come back there. So anyways, I invited people to come back, and I said, I'll buy pizza for everybody. So I says, first come, first serve, because I don't know if I can fit everybody in the room. But we had a bunch of people come up there, and I ordered the pizza, and that was to come at a certain time. And lo and behold, the door knocked in the hotel room. And so this girl, I thought she was the pizza delivery girl. So she had 2 pizzas. She had some wine. She had even a little beer. I said, wow, what? I thought it was the pizza. I thought it was the pizza company delivering the pizza. So I says, oh, thank you. In fact, I was going to give her a tip. She says, no. She says, I was at the protest today. She says, I wanted to come up here and have pizza with you guys. So she said, I thought she was the pizza delivery girl. So she said, oh, no. She says, this is the highlight of my life. She says, Rick, I listen in. I never called in. Her name was Susan, as a matter of fact, of all things. So she says, I listen in. She was about 35 years old. And she says, I listen in every Saturday night. I've never missed it. I listen to it all the time. I know all the people that call in. I can tell you about everything on the program. She knows all about this. I couldn't believe it, Anne-Marie. And so she said, no, she wanted to be there and meet people. And I did a little YouTube video. She's at the very end. It's the after the protest, post-protest YouTube video I did. And she speaks up at the very end. She didn't want to speak up at all. And she spoke up at the very end. She was shy, but she says, I can do it. I think I can do it. So she came on live. And then there was another man. I would say he was about 35. And he came up to me when I was at the protest. He says, are you Rick? I says, yep. I said, they look better in person than on YouTube, right? So he says, yeah. So anyways, he says, he says, Rick, I have to tell you, I have been getting so much help by your program every Saturday night. He says, I listen in and I'm just blown away by the people who call in. So anyways, he came over to the room after the protest, and he was really shy. He didn't want to speak up. He was afraid to, but his girlfriend was listening in, and she said, I'm going to have him speak up. So she called him, and he spoke up live in our little protest, post-protest program. And boy, he told his story. I was trying to get him on here today, but something went snafu. But I'd love to get him on this program and talk about it, because he had us literally, and we were laughing, and also tears of laughter, and also we were saddened by what the Watchtower did to this man. And I wanted him to tell his story. But we'll get him on. We'll get him on anyways. Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. Oh, Rick, that is just so awesome. I watched as much as I could different videos that you did. It was kind of hard, but just to know you guys were out there. I mean, there was such a good feeling about it, and so many people were aware of the upcoming protests and when it was going on, and so many people were so happy that you and the ones that got there were there. And I love those signs you made. My goodness, Rick, you do so much for the cause, Rick.
Well, all of the signs, I was hoping some of the people, but they made their own, and I didn't want to butt in and say, hey, hold my sign. But they made their own, and they wanted to do that, so that was good. But, getting those signs, I had like 10 signs. I had 2 webcams on tripods. I had 3 computers. I had a bunch of other stuff in my cart. I got this cart on Amazon, and I was able to put all of that stuff in there so I could wheel it, because it was like a mile and a half from the parking garage to the front of the White House. So it wasn't any problem. I know I told the story last night. So I put all the stuff. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, packed everything up. I wanted to be down there early enough. So I got down to the parking garage. It was a Ronald Reagan parking garage. It's right near the White House, but it's a good little walk. So anyways, I stopped there to go into the garage, and the 2 White House policemen. So they wanted to know what's in the car. So they opened all the doors and they looked at the equipment, the microphones and all of that. And I told them I was with a news network, and I was doing a news program in front of the White House today. So they let me go, no problem. So I put everything in the cart, and I walked a good mile to get in front of the White House to start meeting everybody. And then the strange thing is, on the way back, so when the protest was over, I walked back, and I just figured, well, I could just walk right in the garage, no problem, with my little cart with all the stuff in it. So, geez, all of a sudden, 2 officers, no, you're not coming in this building with all of that stuff. Those signs and stuff, they're not coming in. We don't know what's in that cart. Could be a bomb. They're saying stuff like this. I just nothing. It's too much safe. You let me. How come you let me out of the garage, but now you won't let me in? They said, no, you got to leave that stuff out there by the sidewalk. Geez, I had $5,000 worth of equipment. So fortunately, there was one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So fortunately, there was one man from there. I wasn't going to leave that on the sidewalk in front of the White House. So one man who did walk back with me, we were talking on the way back, he said he didn't watch it. So anyways, I said, okay, I'll leave it. So he was nice enough to watch it for me. So I walked in, and geez, they put me through the grinder. Take your belt off, take your wallet out of your pocket, take your watch off, take everything out of your pockets. You put your phone over here. They had a regular search set up there for people going into that garage. So I had a box cutter. And, I use that for cutting string and cutting banner tape and all of that. So he sees the box cutter. So he picks.
Oh, for God's sake.
So, I mean, that's what really was a problem at 9/11, the box cutter, right? So he sees the box cutter. So now he's looking at me like I'm some type of a Iranian terrorist, So I said, hey, look,
Yeah.
I says, I'm in the sign business. I'm with this 6 Swings Network. I says, I need that box cutter to cut things, for the protest. He's looking at it. He's looking at me. Then he put it back down. He said, go ahead. He says, you'll be all right. Can you imagine that? So then anyways, I get the car and get out of there. Yeah. But
oh my goodness, Rick, what you go through.
But the security, Anne Marie,
Yeah.
I have never seen so many police officers in all my life. They must have been expecting something, because I mean, everywhere you look, they had police dogs. They had, guys coming by, policemen with the dogs. They're sniffing, all of your bags, your equipment. And I don't know exactly what they were looking for, but there was a concerted effort. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, there's no way that you would ever breach that White House fence. You'd be shot dead, and within a minute, you'd be on the ground dying. Believe me. Really, it was amazing to see that all in action. You see this stuff on TV, but when you're right up front and you see it all, it's happening right in front of you. And, all the Secret Service men, they had bulletproof vests on. I mean, they were ready for action. Anybody get out of line, they certainly would have jumped in,
Wow. I mean, it's kind of cool, but in a way, it's kind of scary too.
I have to say it was. I'm not afraid of police, but I'm afraid of police that don't really allow you to say much. They just want you. Even when I was being searched with everything, they just want you to keep your mouth shut. Just listen to what they have to say. And I can understand that there's got to be some authority. There's got to be someone in charge. But it was it created let me put it this way, kind of an unkind atmosphere. You knew that people were watching you. I have no idea how many cameras are put on you. I mean, never mind the police. I mean, there must have been cameras on everybody watching everybody,
Yeah, it's kind of scary. And no matter how well trained the officers might be, it just takes one idiot on a bad day to just kind of just go a little too far. You know, that's what happened at Ohio State University in 1970, where the the National Guard was out there at a university campus with protesters, and they were not supposed to fire. And what the heck is the National Guard doing, pointing guns and rifles at students? But they were, and it took just one person to let off a shot, and all of a sudden it was a turkey shoot, and 4 students dead.
Yeah.
And you know, it can happen anytime, anywhere, and so it's like you want to be respectful of our government and our country and the laws and security and so forth, but yet there's a part of you that is cognizant of the fact that things could have a potential to possibly go sideways. And thank God you're a very easygoing man. You don't have an attitude like, what the hell are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. And who do you think you are? And I'm a citizen. You know, you always are very calm, very agreeable. So your energy didn't give them any clue that you're something to get aggressive towards. Thank God.
Yeah, well, you know, it was funny. They had they had about, I'd say, 6 or 8 speakers lined up. So I was to speak around noontime. So I got up there, and as soon as I got up to speak, and they had the PA system all set up, and as soon as I got up to speak, lo and behold, this woman comes out of nowhere, really, and she starts yelling and screaming at me. You know, I don't know if she was
Oh my
I
God.
don't know if she was a caller or an ex-witness, or who the heck she was, but she started saying all kinds of like stupid things, and you don't listen, you're not doing it right, and I couldn't even make out what she was saying. So I says, "Excuse me, miss, do you want to come up here?" They asked me to speak. I mean, but you're speaking over me. Did you want to come up here and speak? So she kept walking around a circle, yelling and screaming at me when I was trying to speak. It really was very disruptive. And they were getting ready to call the Secret Service on her, but then she buzzed off. But that's the only incident that I could recall that had any nasty side to it. Everything else seemed to go pretty doggone smooth. And the interesting thing was, at the end of the protest, a man that listens into a program, he came up to me and says, "Hey, Rick, did you see those guys standing next to me?" I said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "The guys with the 2 masks on." He says, "They were covering their face." He says, "Those 2 guys are PMOs. They're physically in, but mentally out. But they wanted to come to the protest and just see what was being said." And online, now we had over 200. I counted about 218, 222. It's hard to really get it exactly because a lot of people are floating around. But online, we had over 6,000 people listening live, Anne Marie.
Oh my God, that gave me chills right now.
Yeah. So what does that tell you when you have 6,000 people listening live on the internet to this protest? Well, what does it tell you, Emery?
If you see one roach, you know there's 1,000 more. It's coming true for the ex-members. Let's just say people who have found their brains. They are tuning in. I mean, look how I found you. I don't even know how I found the 6 screens. But boy, now my husband knows. He talks to his sister, and she talks to her friends, and they all know now about the Watchtower because of my mouth learning from your show to my husband, to everybody he talks to, his friends, his sister, her friends, and they all know. Even some of my friends who have never heard of Watchtower, they are even getting to know. It's spreading. The truth is spreading about the Watchtower.
Yeah, in fact, even so funny because, when I do the program, we all have our own way of saying things, doing things. You do as well in your program, but I always introduce the JW World News by saying, "We're coming to you from the apostate capital of the world." So, so one guy, he comes up and he wants to know, he says, "Rick, is Boston really the apostate capital of the world?" And I said, "Well, I can tell you this, there are a lot of apostates up there, but, I kind of say it just to get just a saying that gets people's attention. But there is a lot of apostates here in Boston area. In fact, in the whole Northeast. And the reason is, I explained to them, religion doesn't go over that great up here in the New England area. You see Catholic churches. You don't see a lot of Protestant churches like you see, especially in Florida and down south in the Bible Belt where I lived. So a lot of people here are not that religious. So a lot of people here, and because of the liberal colleges we have here too, the Harvard and MIT, and these guys, they don't want anything for the most part to do with God. They're more academic than spiritual. So there's not a lot of spirituality that goes on up here. So that's why I think we have a lot of people who left the witnesses as well. So I'm going to stick to it. Boston is the apostate capital of the world. But wherever people are listening in from now, there'll be way more apostates coming your way in the future because so many people are getting out, Anne-Marie.
Well, I have to say I agree with you, Rick. And, everybody, a name comes from somewhere. And why not call Boston, the capital, apostate capital? Is that static for me?
I think that static's coming from my phone here, my conference call phone. We'll see if it clears up. It's not. I don't think it's you. Well, anyways, let me. Is it bothering you?
No. I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Okay, well, it's gone now. I don't know if it might have been a caller calling in. But if there's anybody listening in on our radio telephone line, or if there's anyone on YouTube, would you like to come in? Why don't you call that number? Why don't you come in and tell us how you fared the Watchtower? What went on when you were in there? Come on. I think we do have one person on now. Is that you, Mike?
Oh, yeah, it's me, Rick. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, so when you were there in Washington, did you see any of those Palestinian or Jewish protesters?
No, I didn't. It might be your phone that's staticky. I'm not sure, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh yeah, you're just fine. But yeah, well, Rick, you're in the sign business. Washington, that would be a great place for you to make some money. I mean, there's people protesting there all the time. Some of them got some, not very good looking signs.
Well, you're right. No, you're right. So, really, if you're gonna protest, you at least protest with a good sign. And but some people, I mean, they just slap it together. I understand it. And signs can get expensive. And of course, I have a sign company, so it's like I don't get them for nothing. I have to pay for the supplies to help, but it's a lot cheaper than going to a sign company. You buy a banner today, you could spend $200-300 like nothing,
Oh, well, no, I've seen some of them on TV. It look like they just got a piece of white cardboard and, something on it,
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess I was curious, you got into security, though. Like, is that like that there all the time? Because, I was watching Fox, and they show those Palestinian protesters. They're right out front of the White House, and they're screaming, "Kill all the Jews," basically. And they didn't seem like they were getting harassed.
Yeah, well, I think that.
Look like you're very nice either.
Well, that's why I think there was so many policemen there. I think they were getting ready for the protest from the Israeli and Palestinian people. So, we were there, and we really took all the oxygen out of the room. There was a couple of people there protesting for Israel, but I mean, we had the biggest protest there, and every day there's a protest going on in front of the White House. I never knew that, but somebody's always protesting.
Yeah, I would assume that. But you talk about security. It's probably more now, maybe since January 6th and all that. But there have been people. Wasn't there a guy? This was a number of years ago. Didn't the guy actually jump the fence?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to try that now. I mean, you'd be shot.
I know the security is more.
Yeah, they had snipers up on the roof. I mean, you wouldn't play any games there. They must have been expecting something, because I don't think you normally have that many police out. But everywhere you look, they were hanging around. Sometimes 4, 5, 6 officers, all just in a little group. So they must have been put on notice about something.
Well, I don't know. I've heard people say stuff. I don't know. Have you been to Washington before?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I never protested in front of the White House, but I've been there before. And as a young kid, my parents took me down, and a couple other times I've been there too. But I never really, thought much about it. Being a witness, and I even mentioned that even a witness going to Washington, that would be like nationalistic. They would look at that as.
But that's funny. I don't want to keep you, but I always remember this. You know how they had those bus services some witnesses had. I always thought it was strange. This is a long time ago, but I always remember looking at one on the website, and you know, you take a bus to Brooklyn and they go all there. But they would also, if you wanted to, they would take you to Washington or somewhere like that. And I thought that was kind of strange because a witness. I'm not saying a witness may not go there, but maybe he wouldn't tell other people about it.
Right. Well,
Some
Mike.
would go, I mean,
Well, I think, Mike, I think it's your phone. Just hang up for a second, and I think it's your phone. I just want to see if that's where the static's coming from.
yeah, I think it is, Rick.
All right, yeah. So if you're on YouTube listening, that's Mike's phone that was doing that. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Anyone on YouTube, see the telephone number there on YouTube, 727-731-6701. Well, why don't you call that number? Call us up. Talk to us. Anne Marie and I, it's kind of lonely Sunday afternoon. We're lonely. We'd love to have somebody call in and talk to us. We had some people lined up, but they kind of somehow, some way, they might have got mixed up on the time went back last night. So that might have messed some things up too. But anyways, talk to us. Anne Marie is always willing to talk to you folks in a nice, kind way, myself as well. And tell us about your trek in the Watchtower. That's what we're trying to do on this program. Or in the future, if you'd like to tell your story and you want to kind of write it all out ahead of time before you just come on extemporaneously, why don't you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, jwworldnews@gmail.com, and say, Rick, I want to come on and I want to tell my story. Well, Anne Marie, what I got thinking when the protest was over, everyone was kind of hugging one another and shaking hands. And it was really remarkable. It kind of reminded me of even after the conventions, after Jehovah's Witness conventions, how everyone was. So it gave me an idea that I think we're going to do in 2025. I think we're going to have the first annual ex-Jehovah's Witness convention. And I even came up with an idea or the name, a theme for the program. And I was thinking of We Are Alive in 2025. So I think that's what we'll call it. And then I'm going to find a choice city. I don't know if we'll be here in Boston, or maybe we'll have it out in Chicago, or maybe we'll have it out in somewhere where it's easy access for people, but I'm going to plan on it and we're going to talk about it on the 6 screens. So it'll be sometime in 2025. So, and then what we're going to do is I think we're going to set up some type of a monetized situation here where funds that come in. I'm not going to ask for any money, but YouTube, they've been kind of pushing me to monetize, to put an ad on. And I refuse to do that. Most of the YouTube videos you see, they have an ad on there, and people make money from that ad. And YouTube is kind of saying to me that they would like to have me do that too, because they'll get more listeners. They'll get more people as well. So they'll make money. So I'm thinking maybe I will monetize just for the sake of helping people who may not be able to afford to come to the convention, Ex-Witness Convention 2025, that would have some funds in to be able to help people with their expenses. So it's something I'm thinking of, and we'll talk more about it. So I think it would be great. In fact, I had a woman wrote me today. I mentioned it last night on the 6 screens. I'm just starting to mention a little bit that we'll do a convention. And I think we can get probably 400, 500, 600 people. And the reason why I say it is, a lot of people are not into protesting. They don't want to do that. That's frightening to a lot of people. But a lot of people love to come to the convention and see each other. We have some speakers come in. So how does that sound, Anne Marie?
Oh God, it sounds wonderful. You have the best ideas. I just keep remembering, in the days of the Watchtower's 1975 Armageddon prophecy, how they kept coming out with all those articles like, what will the 1970s bring, and who will rule the world? No, who will conquer the world in the 1970s? And why are you looking forward to 1975? And then from the podium, always keeping us on high alert. And remember, they kept saying, stay alive till 75. So I think that's a great idea to say, we're still alive in 25 and and just maybe in the brochure, if you have a little brochure outlining the whole, point or why of this convention, maybe little pictures of those old magazine articles, because witnesses today who want to stay in their little Watchtower fantasy bubble programming, they do not want to hear or see any of those old articles like that's apostate literature. This is a fantastic idea, my brother.
Yeah, I believe it would work. Now, it wouldn't have worked a few years ago, but in view of what I saw in Washington, I know it works. It would work now. People will come in. They'll be able to want to be at the convention. And like I say, maybe not protest, but we'll get people to a convention. I got people already I see writing here on YouTube in the chat that they want to go. They'll be there. So that would really be something to do that. And boy, we could get to meet all of these people and talk with them, have people give speeches, testimonies, probably have like a 2-day convention, probably like on a Saturday and a Sunday morning, and people could leave in the afternoon,
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we could almost do a kind of a Woodstock scenario where people don't have to worry about hotel rooms and buying food. I mean, maybe we could do it old school, like we could have like a campground situation where there are bathrooms and showers to access, and just where we could just build up a stage and have the sound system and everybody, maybe like a what do you call it, a mash kitchen, like an army kitchen set up tent. I mean, maybe there's a way to do it practical wise, where everybody can bring their own tent and their own everything and their own whatever they need, but we all just sit together and we listen, and you have speakers lined up. And I don't know if you ever watched the videos from the old Woodstock, but everybody came together and everything was taken care of. Everything was taken care of, and it's amazing the impact that it had. And I think it would have kind of taken away from the true spirituality and the value of it if they had all had motel rooms and ate at restaurants. And it's just an idea, but I think it's wonderful, Rick, wonderful.
Well, now that idea, I mean, so in other words, you would say maybe like a Woodstock event. You'll rent like a big field somewhere, bring in some portable toilets.
Exactly.
People could tent there. Of course, not everybody likes tenting or camping, but I mean, we'll see. Well, it's an idea. Maybe we could look at doing something like that as well. But the idea of the hotel, I mean, so much more comfortable for people. But of course, it gets expensive. But what I was thinking, even when we had the protests we were going to do back in 2020 up in front of Warwick, I actually contacted the Hilton Hotel, and I had a number of hotel rooms booked. And they told me if I could book enough of them, because I know a lot were coming in. There was over 100 people that were coming. So I booked in advance a number of rooms, and they were going to give me, for every 10 rooms I booked, they were going to give me a free one. So I was thinking we could do something like that, work a deal with the hotel where, if we have a whole lot of people coming, we'd have some free rooms we can give to the people who are having a kind of a hard time getting there because of funds. But, we could have some food there, and we could have some food at the sub. We could make it so that it wouldn't cost people an arm and a leg,
Well, maybe we could do both, my brother. I mean, camping is not that hard. I mean, my body, I have severe fibromyalgia and all kinds of health problems. But you know what? I'll sleep on the ground, and I've done it. We can do it, but why not have some motel rooms if we can, or hotel rooms in the area? I think that this is a really good idea, my brother, and I think that time has come. Because stay alive till 75, we're still alive in 25. How many years is that, my brother? Over 50 years?
Well, in my book, it's 50 years. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And what were we told? If anybody had stood there and said, I don't really think Armageddon's going to come in 75, you would have been looked at like you were crazy.
Well, we have people writing in here on YouTube. Ray is saying that he was in the Army, so tents aren't a problem for him. But we'll come up with all these people writing in, they love the idea. I mean, this thing could really be huge, Anne Marie. I mean, it could be like a Woodstock,
Exactly. That's why I want to have the idea. And you know what? It's not hard to set up a food tent with big long tables. Because remember, they used to do that for the assemblies, the district conventions. Remember, they had areas where you could be camping. Remember the big long wooden tables?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be fun.
We could do it.
That would be
We
fun.
could make. I could make tons of burritos. You know, there are foods you can make, not too much. I mean, we could do it. Just put it out there. The Lord will bless you. And it's funny because two subjects have come up on Reddit. If you don't mind me saying it, let me know. But this one guy, young JW Pimo, is just going nuts because he said he's been asking his parents and his grandparents for years, what is this about 75? What happened? You were there. Tell me what happened. And he said they all don't want to talk about it, or they'll make a flimsy excuse and change the subject. So I went on Reddit and I totally answered him the best that I could. And he came back and said, thank you, because basically at last, somebody who knows the truth told me the truth. And I think more and more are starting to wonder, because the crazy things that Watchtower is coming up with, this is the truth. Now that's the truth. Oh, now your children are enemies of God. Now your babies are enemies of God. And somebody else was posting on Reddit, has anybody else noticed that the Watchtower is starting to focus more on telling the parents in the Watchtower organization to kind of look at their children with a critical eye if they're not gung-ho for Watchtower, quote unquote, Jehovah, to see them as being used by Satan. And I wrote back, I said, they're probably afraid. They're just afraid because they're running out of excuses, and they will say anything, do anything, threaten anything to, keep it going, because that money and that control, they don't want to lose it, Rick.
Well, Anne-Marie, I have to tell you, they are hemorrhaging, and I have proof of it. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you. I know I called you coming back from the protest, but I think I forgot to mention this to you. But when I was down visiting my father in Pennsylvania before I went to the protest, I had two sisters talk to me on the telephone that haven't talked to me for 18 years. And so my father was, when I was there with my father, my sister who lives in New Hampshire, she called my father. My father said, hey, Rick is here. Your brother Rick is here. Say hello to him. Now, she never would have said, she's a staunch, loyal witness. She never would have said a word to me, but she was on FaceTime, like on Facebook. I could see her there. She could see me. And she asked me how I was doing and how things have been going. She never would have said this. Something's up. And then even her husband, who was an elder, he came on. Hi, Rick. How you been? Haven't seen you for a while. I couldn't believe it. And then my other sister, who lives in Pennsylvania, my father called her and said, hey, your brother Rick is here in Pennsylvania. You want to say hello to him? She came on the telephone and said hello to me. That never would have happened. Anne-Marie, I have to tell you that in the last year and a half, I have had 6 of my relatives talk to me. 3 of them have contacted me and told me they're done with the Watchtower.
Rick, that is so validating to the true spirit of, I say, the God of the universe, because it's all about, Jesus said not to worry, that he has conquered the world. Satan, the enemy, has been all about lying and deceiving and twisting the truth and manipulating people to believe the lies. And, Corinthians says, that they follow these Satan worshipers because they disguise themselves as being so good and so holy and so spiritual. But you know what? I think they are waking up, like you said. Your family has been so horrible to you. And for this to happen, to me, is absolute light from the Lord. That's just the way I see it, because you have been so faithful, no matter how badly you were treated, no matter how much you were shunned. And poor Susan, your beautiful wife, how she's shunned. To see this happen, to know that these indoctrinated, totally programmed Watchtowerite drones who were so faithful to Watchtower to have their heart moved, to talk to you, to see you no longer as some wicked apostate who turned against Jehovah. Oh my God, my chill bumps got chill bumps, Rick.
Well, I'm going to tell you, chill bumps, they can feel good. And for all of us listening in here today, there are times when you really feel good about something. I mean, it's like I call it the adrenaline rush. And for some reason, you just feel pumped up. You feel like there's not an ache in your body. Yeah, you just feel exhilarated. And that's exactly how I felt when my sisters talked to me. That was unbelievable. We all love our blood, right? Our blood relatives. And boy, when they don't talk to you, it can be very, very harmful to people. I mean, I've got away with it. I wasn't losing sleep over it. But boy, I'll tell you, after they talk to me, and it's going to happen to a bunch of people that are listening into this program as well. You watch, you get ready. Your friends who have been staunch Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to talk to you soon. I know that's going to happen. It's been happening here with me. It's been happening with people that have been calling into the program. So you just wait, and you're going to find that, wow, and you start practicing what you're going to say to them, because you don't want to be mean to them. But I was nice to them, even though I could say, well, you bums, you haven't talked to me for 18 years. I don't want to speak. I mean, you wouldn't say something like that. You wouldn't. You'd say, geez, that's
No.
it's a way about going about it, right, Anne-Marie?
Absolutely. And, I've told you before, I have a playlist of JW World News, and every night I play it and I listen to you. Even after I get up in the morning, I'm listening to you. And I just today heard you talk about how you would treat your JW relatives or old friends if they called you, and you really, I thought, what, Rick, you said the perfect thing. Just imagine how hard it is for them. Imagine how they feel, how nervous they must be. Treat them with kindness. And you even mentioned, I think, the prodigal son, when the father ran out with open arms and comforted his sons and celebrated him. And he didn't chastise him or try to make him feel guilty. And you said we should welcome our relatives like that with open arms. Isn't that truly the love of Christ? Isn't that how Christ loved us? He said, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. And somebody said at church, and I wrote it down in my Bible, we must, as Christians, we must be a forgiving people because we are a forgiven people. So how could we be anything but kind and loving to our beautiful lost family if they come back to us? Shouldn't we be crying tears of joy and showing them nothing but love and welcome?
Oh, absolutely, Anne-Marie. And I know you would do that. And that's what we want to do. And I have to say that it would be very difficult, as you just said. Imagine now, even for my sister the other day, that has not spoken to me for 18 years, and now she has to talk to me. And that is going to be tough because, you would feel that the person that you didn't talk to would be holding a grudge. I don't hold a grudge. And like I told her, I believe it's her, the other sister, that, the Watchtower kind of is what is the culprit here. I know the reason why you haven't talked to me, because I would probably do the same thing if I was still in this organization. So we have to understand it's really not our loved ones and friends that hate us. The Watchtower hates us. They try to instill into our family members and our friends hatred toward us. It's not real hatred on their part. It's induced hatred by the Watchtower.
Yeah, I love how one of the governing bodies said, we don't shun them, they shun us. They are so backwards. They are lying, backwards, fake people. And, do we as, ex-Watchtower members really in any way want to reflect the very lies, ugly things that Watchtower says about us?
Unreal.
I'm so happy for you, Rick. You know what? I'd really be happy for days. Couldn't stop smiling. Is if Susan, God bless your precious wife, could be reunited with her daughters who have shunned her for so long.
Well, you know, I even mentioned this to some doctors. Now, the good thing is Susan is remarkably getting better. I see her getting better here on a daily basis.
Thank God.
So,
Thank God.
but I have talked to doctors about this. The doctors are fascinated because I tell them that we do a radio program and we expose Jehovah's Witnesses and mind control organizations to people. And they think it's fascinating. But the point that I wanted to make with is I tell them that, you know, Susan's health, my beautiful wife Susan's health could be really enhanced. It could be made so much better if her two only daughters would speak with her. You know, there's when you're talking about physical sickness, if you have emotional sickness as well on top of physical sickness, it doesn't make the physical sickness any better, does it, Anne-Marie?
No, it exacerbates it, definitely.
Yeah, and even, you know, even spiritual sickness, we have to take this all into consideration. If you really want a good, healthy, a good feeling body, you need good emotional thoughts. You don't need people shunning you and your own relatives not talking to you. That doesn't do anything to enhance your overall health. So I tell the doctors that, and they can't believe that her daughters won't even speak to her. Then I tell them that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. But you know what, Anne-Marie? Many of these doctors I talk to, they already know how evil the Watchtower is. They do. They say, no, I've heard that before. And of course, they always bring up the blood issue too. So they know who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Not only is the government's catching up on Jehovah's Witnesses, doctors, physicians, they're catching up on the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, religion already has caught up on these bums. I don't know who's gonna give them any applause anymore. I really don't. Everybody's realizing what creeps and how evil they are, Anne-Marie.
Yep, the truth about the truth. You know, and there are doctors that are realizing. I used to go to a naturopath doctor who was really trying to help me, explaining how the body, mind, soul, and spirit are all connected, and your emotional state, everything is connected, and he was really helping me. But what I didn't realize, and I look back now and see it's true, every single time I would go see him, I would manage to do some incidental witnessing. You know how Watchtowerites are programmed. And one day I started in again, not realizing I was doing it. And he put up his hand. He said, please stop. I can't take anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I am a psychiatrist by vocation. I've worked in psychiatric hospitals, but my passion is natural medicine. And I eventually gave up my psychiatric practice to practice home health medicine, natural medicine. And he says, I'm going to tell you something. I know all about your religion. I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. I even attended the Kingdom Hall meetings. And I can tell you, as a psychiatrist, and he wasn't just a practicing, he was the head of psychiatry at this psychiatric hospital. He said, I can tell you as a psychiatrist that those Jehovah's Witnesses are some of the most sick, twisted, maladjusted people with more problems than I have ever seen in my life. And he said, when people can't deal with their emotional issues or whatever issues they have, a lot of them will turn to an addiction. They'll either have a food addiction, an alcohol addiction, drugs, workaholic, or religion. He said sometimes all of them. They will be a religious fanatic and drink and everything. And he said these kinds of he said religion, but he meant cult, will attract these people and exacerbate the very problems that they have. He said because they don't want to face them or feel like they don't know how to face them. And so this one person was talking on Apostate show just last night Linda James apostate had a guest, I think his name was John, and either he or somebody commented on their mother who was so sick. And in desperation, they started seeing a naturopath who was really helping her get better. But he kept trying to tell her that bottom line, there was really nothing physically wrong so much as it was her mental and emotional state. He said, your religion is what is really at the core of your problem. Your religion is what is making you so sick. And he said she got really angry and said, you're from Satan. And then when she got worse and worse, she kept going back to the doctor. And the guy that was telling his story said, amazingly, this doctor kept taking her back. And then she'd get mad all over again because he kept trying to tell her, your core problem is that cult that you're in. And it's just like what my doctor tried to tell me, because I got so mad at what he said, I never went back to him. But he was right. And you're right. Doctors are knowing, just like police officers are finding out.
Well, you're absolutely right with that. That's another profession that is finding out a lot about the witnesses. They're not totally happy with the witnesses either. And I can say that for certainty because whenever I would get a permit to protest, and all I had to do is mention to the police that Jehovah's Witnesses are covering up child sex abuse. No problem. Here's the permit. I mean, they know it. I mean, let's face it. They're aware of what goes on in the aberrant, strange world of the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, they're not oblivious to all of this. But Anne Marie, I'm so glad that we could talk today. We didn't get anyone to come and tell their story, but that's all right. Maybe next time around, and we'd love to hear from different people. Well, thank you for coming in today and wanting to have your program, Anne Marie. Thank you.
Well, thank you, my brother, and I am really grateful that we got to have this discussion. And I want to thank everyone for listening in to Six Screen Sunday. This is November 5th, 2023, and this program, again, is basically ex-Watchtower members telling their story, sharing their thoughts, and I'm sure you all enjoyed hearing Rick. This has been great. Thank you so much, my brother.
Well, Anne Marie, you keep hanging in there, buddy. I'll be in contact with you, and I thank you very much for coming on today. And I want to thank the people who called into the program and the people commenting on our various platforms that we're on. Now, don't go anywhere. We have JW World News Sunday edition coming up next. Got a lot to talk about. And then, of course, at 4 o'clock, we have the Christian Court program. Now, don't head for the mountains because you hear the word Christian. This Christian Court is a neat program. It answers peculiar Christian questions. Now, today on the Christian Court, there is a war. You know it as well as I do. It's all over the TV. Israel and Palestine are at war. You know that. Well, what about a Christian? What position do they take? I mean, Christians know that Israel is God's chosen people, but what about the Palestinians? I mean, how should a Christian react to this war? That's an interesting question. We're going to be answering that today on the Christian Court at 4 o'clock. And then Jay Hess is coming on at 5. Jay Hess at one time was he was associated with the Watchtower writing department, and he has a program on here at 5 o'clock answering your Bible questions. So don't leave us. The news is coming up next. Our Sunday edition. We'll see you then. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right. We just got to end this program, which